Welcome to Biography Central. You are listening to Life of Sri Ramakrishna, a complete biography. Chapter 41, Meeting with Some Notables. Among the notable visitors to Sri Ramakrishna at this period was the famous Ashwini Kumar Dutt, the patriot devotee of Barisal. We give below extracts from his reminiscences of the master, as recorded in a Bengali letter he wrote to him, the writer of the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. It was perhaps during the Puja holidays of 1881 that I met Sri Ramakrishna for the first time. Keshav Babu was to come that day. I arrived at Dakshineswar by boat, and going up the steps of the landing, God asked someone where the Paramahamsa was living. "There is the Paramahamsa," the man replied, pointing to a man reclining against a bolster in the northern veranda, facing the garden. When I saw that he wore a black bordered cloth and reclined in that way, I thought, what kind of a Paramahamsa can he be? There he sat leaning against the bolster with his hands clasped across his drawn-up knees. Then I thought, he evidently is not accustomed to the use of pillows as gentlemen are, so perhaps he is a Paramahamsa. At his right, very near the pillow, sat a gentleman whose name, I learned, was Rajendra Lal Mithra, who afterwards became Assistant Secretary to the government of Bengal. A little further off sat some others. After a few moments, the master said to Rajendra Babu, "Please see if Keshav is coming." Someone looked and said, "No." After a brief interval, hearing a sound outside, he again said, "Please look once more." Again someone went and came back with the same reply. Then Sri Ramakrishna smiled and said, "The rustling of leaves makes Radha exclaim, 'Oh, here comes my beloved.' You see, Keshav always tantalizes me like this." At twilight, Keshav came with his party. When Keshav bowed before him, touching the ground with his forehead, the master returned the salutation in the same manner. Shortly after, he raised his head and in a state of semi-consciousness said, addressing the mother, "Thou hast brought the entire population of Calcutta here, as if I were going to deliver a lecture. I can't do that. Do it thyself if thou likest. I can't do these things." Still in the ecstatic mood, with a divine smile, he said, "I am thy child. I'll simply live and move. I'll eat, sleep, and do such trifles, but I can't give lectures." Keshav Babu's heart overflowed with emotion as he looked at Sri Ramakrishna. Seeing the master in this state, I thought, can this be pretense? I had never seen anything like it before, and I'm not a credulous man. Coming back from this exalted state, the master addressing Keshav said, "Keshav, once when I went to your temple, I heard you say, 'Plunging into the river of devotion, we shall be carried straight to the ocean of Satchidananda.'" Then I looked up at the gallery where Keshav's wife and other ladies were sitting, and thought, what will become then of these ladies? You are householders. How can you reach the ocean of Satchidananda all at once? You are like the mongoose that has a stone tied to its tail. If something happens, it runs up and sits in a niche in the wall. But how can it remain there? The stone pulls it down with a thud to the floor. You may practice a little meditation, but the weight of wife and children will drag you down. You may dive into the river of devotion, but you must come up again, dive and come up again. How can you dive once for all? Is it altogether impossible for householders? Keshav Babu asked. What about Maharshi Devendranath Tagore? Sri Ramakrishna softly repeated Devendranath Tagore, Devendra, Devendra, and saluted him several times. Then he said, his case is similar to that of a man who used to celebrate the Durga Puja with great pomp. Goats would be sacrificed from morning till evening. But after a few years the sacrifice was not so imposing. Then someone said, "How is it that the sacrifice at your place has become such a tame affair?" "Why," the other replied, "my teeth are gone now. So it is but natural that at his advanced age Devendra should be practicing meditation. But he is a good man for all that. You see, so long as man is under the spell of Maya, he is like a green coconut. If you want to use the tender part of it, you cannot help scraping a little of the shell also with it. But the man who has gone beyond Maya is like a ripe coconut. The kernel is free from the shell. When you shake it, you know that it is so. The soul then becomes loose from the body. It is no longer attached to it. It is the ego that is the cause of all trouble. The wretched is almost indestructible. It is like the peepal tree that grows from the rubbish of a dilapidated house. You may cut it down today, but tomorrow you will find it growing from the roots again. The same is the case with the ego. You may wash a cup in which onions have been kept 7 times, but the strong odor remains. In the course of the conversation, he said to Keshub Babu, "Well, Keshub, is it true that your Calcutta Babus deny the existence of God?" One such Babu was going up the stairs. He took one step, but before taking the next one, he cried, "Oh, my side, and fell unconscious. There was a hue and cry for a doctor. But before the doctor came, the man was dead. And such people say, there is no God. After an hour or so, the kirtan commenced. What I saw then, I shall probably never forget in this life or the life to come. All began to dance, Keshub included, with the master in the center and the others in a circle around him. In the course of the dance, the master suddenly stood motionless. He was in samadhi. It continued for a long time. Hearing and seeing all this, I understood that he was a real Paramahamsa. Another day, perhaps in 1883, I went to see him with a few young men of Serampore. Seeing them, he asked, "Why have they come?" "To see you," I replied. "Sri Ramakrishna, what is there to see in me? Why don't they go and see the buildings and temples?" Myself, "Sir, they have not come to see these things. They have come to see you." Sri Ramakrishna, they must be flints then. There's fire in them. You may keep a flint underwater for 1,000 years, but the moment you strike it, it emits fire. They must be of that type. But if you strike us, it will be in vain. At this last remark, we smiled. I went another day. When I bowed down to him and took my seat, he said, "Can you bring me some of that thing, half sour, half sweet, that begins to fizz when you push down the cork?" "You mean lemonade?" I asked. "Yes." He said, "Will you bring me that?" I think I brought him a bottle. So far as I remember, he was alone that day. I asked him a few questions. Myself, "Do you observe caste?" Sri Ramakrishna, "Well, not much to boast of. I ate a curry at Keshub Saint's house. Let me tell you what happened once. A man with a long beard, a Mohammedan, brought ice for sale, but I was not inclined to take it. A little later, someone brought me a piece of ice from that same man, and I ate it. You see, caste restrictions fall away by themselves. When coconut trees and palm trees grow up, the leaves drop off by themselves. Caste observances go like that. But don't tear them off as those fools do, meaning the violent reformers." Myself, "What do you think of Keshub Babu?" Sri Ramakrishna, "Oh, he is a saintly man." Myself, "And Trilokya Babu?" Sri Ramakrishna, "A fine man and a good singer." Myself, "And Sivanath Babu?" Sri Ramakrishna, "A good man, but he argues too much." Myself, "What difference is there between the Hindus and the Brahmos?" Sri Ramakrishna, "Not much. When they play on oboes here, one man holds the same note right along, while another plays different melodies. The Brahmos are harping on the same note, the formless aspect of God, but the Hindus enjoy his various aspects. I told the master that I had met Achalananda Tirthavidutha of Barisal. This led to the following conversation. Sri Ramakrishna, "Isn't that Ramkumar of Kotrang?" Myself, "Yes, sir." Sri Ramakrishna, "How did you like him?" Myself, "I liked him very much." Sri Ramakrishna, "Well, whom do you like better, him or me?" Myself, "How can you draw a comparison? He is a scholar, but are you one?" The master was a little puzzled and became silent. A moment later I said, "He may be a scholar, but you are an interesting man. There is great fun in your company." Then he smiled and remarked, "Well said, well said." He asked me, "Have you seen my Panchavuti?" "Yes, sir," I replied. He told me a little of his religious practices there. He also spoke about Totapuri. Then I asked him, "How can I realize God?" "Well," he replied, "He is always drawing us as a magnet draws iron. Only when the iron is covered with dirt, it is not attracted. As soon as the dirt is washed off the mind by weeping, it is instantly drawn to him." As I was noting down his words, he remarked, "Look here, only crying hemp will not produce intoxication. You must get the hemp, rub it in water, and drink it." Later he said, "You have to live in the world. So have your mind slightly intoxicated with the thought of God. While you are at work, let that feeling of inebriation be with you. You cannot, of course, be like Sukadeva and drink till you lose all consciousness of the body. If you have to be in the world, give him power of attorney. Make over all your responsibilities to him. Let him do as he likes. All this time, the master was seated on the floor. Now he got up and stretched himself on his cot. Then he said, "Please fan me." I began to fan him, and he was silent. After a while, he said, "Oh, it's so hot. Why don't you just dip the fan in water?" I remarked, "Ah, you two have your likings." The master smiled and said, "Yes, why not?" "Very well," I said, "have your full measure of them." I cannot express in words the immense pleasure I derived from his company that day. When I paid my last visit to him on May 23rd, 1885, the headmaster of our school, who had just then graduated, was with me. As soon as Sri Ramakrishna saw him, he asked me, "Ah, where did you pick him up? A fine fellow." Then he continued, "You are a lawyer, and you are so clever. Can you give me a little of that cleverness? The other day your father came and stayed here for 3 days. How did you like him?" I asked. "A nice man," the master replied, "but sometimes he talks too much." I said, "Please help him to get over this tendency when you next meet him." The master smiled. I asked him to give us some advice. He said, "Do you know Hriday? Your nephew?" I inquired. "I know him only by name." Then he said, "Hriday used to say to me, 'Uncle, please don't exhaust your stock of instructions at once. Why should you repeat the same thing over and over?' I would reply, 'You fool, what's that to you? These are my words, and I shall repeat them 100,000 times if I like. You keep quiet.' I smiled and said, 'Exactly so.' A little later he got up, and after repeating Om several times began to sing a song that began, 'Dive deep, my mind, in the ocean of divine beauty.' He had scarcely rendered the first few lines when he himself dived deep and fell into samadhi. When the samadhi was over, he began to pace the room, and with both hands pulled up his wearing cloth till it reached the waist. One end of it was trailing on the floor, and the other was hanging loose. Nudging my companion, I whispered, 'See how nicely he wears his cloth.' A moment later, he threw away the cloth with the words, 'Ugh, what nuisance! Off with it.' He began to pace up and down the room. From a northern end, he brought a stick and an umbrella and asked, 'Do these belong to you?' Scarcely had I replied no when he said, 'I knew it. I can judge a man by his stick and umbrella. They must belong to that man who was here some time ago and swallowed a lot of food.' He sat down, still nude, on the northern end of his cot, facing the west, and began the following conversation. 'Sri Ramakrishna, well, do you consider me ungentlemanly?' Myself, of course not. Why do you ask that? Sri Ramakrishna, well, Sivanath and others think so. When they come, I have to wrap a cloth around me. Do you know Girish Ghosh? Myself, which Girish Ghosh? He who conducts a theater? Sri Ramakrishna, yes. Myself, I have never seen him, but I have heard about him. Sri Ramakrishna, a good man. Myself, they say he drinks. Sri Ramakrishna, let him. How long will he continue that? Do you know Narendra? Myself, no, sir. Sri Ramakrishna, I wish very much that you would meet him. He has passed the BA examination and is unmarried. Myself, very well, I shall meet him. Sri Ramakrishna, today there will be a kirtan at Ram Dutt's house. You may meet him there. Please go there this evening. Myself, all right. Sri Ramakrishna, yes, do. And don't forget. Myself, it is your command, and I obey. Surely I'll go. He showed us the pictures in his room and asked if a picture of Lord Buddha could be had. I answered, very likely. Sri Ramakrishna, please let me have one. Myself, yes, I'll bring one when I come again. But alas, I never had the opportunity. That evening, I went around Babu's house and met Narendra. In one of the rooms, Sri Ramakrishna sat reclining against a pillow. Narendra sat at his right, I in front. He asked Narendra to talk with me, but the latter said, I have a nasty headache today. I don't feel like talking. Then let us postpone it. I said, we shall have a chat some other day. And that came to pass in May or June 1897 at Almora. Ah, how happily I spent those few days with him. I never met him again after that. It was only the master's wish that brought us together at Almora. I met the master only 4 or 5 times. But in that short time, we became so close that I felt as if we had been classmates. How much liberty I took while speaking with him. But no sooner had I left his presence than it flashed on me. Great God, with whom was I speaking? My whole life has been sweetened by what I received in those few days. The memory of that Elysian smile is still with me, shedding unending bliss. Sri Ramakrishna paid a visit to Pandit Ishvar Chandra Vidyasagar. The Pandit was far famed for his great scholarship, which justified his title of Vidyasagar, or Ocean of Learning. But even greater than his scholarship was his compassion for suffering humanity. The master had heard about Vidyasagar's rare parts since his boyhood and was naturally attracted towards him. In the afternoon of August 5, 1882, Sri Ramakrishna set out for the house of Vidyasagar in a carriage, with Mahendra, Bhavanath, and Hajra. Owing to the dense traffic, the carriage had to stop when a master observed a man in another carriage looking at his own socks with an evident satisfaction. The master was touched and said, addressing the Divine Mother, "O Mother, the man hasn't had enough of enjoyment. Do let him enjoy a little." As he was nearing Vidyasagar's, he said to himself several times, "Mother, I'm going to see the Pandit, but you know I am absolutely devoid of learning." His mood became exalted, and he expressed his dislike for worldly topics. The carriage stopped in front of Vidyasagar's house. Sri Ramakrishna alighted, supported by Bhavanath. He wore a red-bordered cloth, the skirt of which was thrown over his shoulder, and a coat which was unbuttoned. As he was going through the garden, he asked Mahendra if he should button his coat. "No, sir," replied Mahendra. "You need not do so." The party reached the first floor of the building. Mahendra introduced the master to the Pandit, who received him cordially. The master was in an ecstatic mood and gazed at the Pandit as though he had known him. To control his ecstasy, he kept saying at short intervals, "I shall drink some water." In that state, he took his seat on a bench on which a boy was sitting. Sri Ramakrishna moved away from him, saying, "Mother, this boy has great attachment to the world." Vidyasagar ordered some drinking water, and, learning that Sri Ramakrishna had no objection to sweetmeats, brought some. Sri Ramakrishna and the devotees helped themselves. Praising a boy who sat before him, the master said to Vidyasagar, "This is a good boy, with plenty of virtues in him, like the river Falgu, which looks like a bed of sand, but when slightly dug, exposes to view a stream of water running underground." Then he addressed Vidyasagar with a smile. "Today, I am before the ocean. Up to now, I have seen only canals and streams, or at best rivers. But today, I see the ocean." Vidyasagar, "Then, sir, be pleased to take some salt water from it." Sri Ramakrishna, No, you are not an ocean of that kind. You are not an ocean of avidya, ignorance, but of vidya, knowledge. Laughter. You are the ocean of milk spoken of in the Puranas." Vidyasagar, "Well, sir, you may talk as you like." Sri Ramakrishna, "What you do is sattvika, unselfish work. It is the rajasika, active aspect of sattva. Compassion springs from sattva. The work that is done out of compassion is a rajasika work, no doubt, but this rajas is the outcome of sattva and does no harm. Sukadeva and others did not give up compassion in order to teach mankind about God. You are distributing knowledge and food. This is good. It will help you to realization if only you can do it disinterestedly. Some work for name or to acquire religious merit. The work of such is not selfless work. Besides, you are already a perfected sage, Siddha." Vidyasagar, "How, sir?" Sri Ramakrishna, "Smiling potatoes and other vegetables become soft when boiled, and you are so tender-hearted, Siddha. You are so kind." Laughter. Vidyasagar, "But certain things harden when boiled, as for instance, pulse made into pulp." Laughter. Sri Ramakrishna, No, you are not of that type. Mere scholars are like diseased fruits that will never ripen. They are lost halfway. The vulture soars very high, but has its eye on a bit of carrion on the ground. Mere scholars are such only in name, for they are attached to lust and wealth. Like vultures, they are on the lookout for carrion. Attachment belongs to the realm of nescience, avidya, while compassion, devotion, and renunciation are the glorious offshoots of knowledge, vidya. Everybody listened with rapt attention to his words. He resumed, Brahman is beyond both vidya and avidya. He is beyond Maya. Brahman cannot be defined by words. The Vedas, the Puranas, the Tantras, and all the 6 philosophies, everything has been defiled by being uttered by the mouth. Only one thing has not been defiled. It is Brahman. No one has as yet been able to say what Brahman is. Vidyasagar, to his friends, well, this is a remarkable statement. Today I have learnt something quite new. Sri Ramakrishna, people think they have known all about Brahman. An ant went to Sugar Hill. It ate 1 grain and was satisfied. It took another grain in its mouth and went home. As it went, it thought that next time it would take the whole hill away. Men, who are but insignificant creatures, think like this. They do not know that Brahman is beyond mind and speech. However great a man may be, he can never know God. Sukadeva and others are at best only big ants that are able to take 8 or 10 grains in their mouths. That's all. After remarking that the scriptures only throw out hints about Brahman, he said, when one has samadhi, one attains the knowledge of Brahman. One realizes it. In that state, reason is perfectly at rest. The man becomes silent. He has not the power to express Brahman in words. A doll made of salt went to fathom the sea. Laughter. It would report about its depth. But it was hopeless. As soon as it touched the water, it dissolved. And who was there to report? Someone asked, doesn't a man of realization speak again after samadhi? Sri Ramakrishna, to Vidyasagar and others, Shankaracharya retained his purified ego in order to teach mankind. When one realizes Brahman, one is silent. Reasoning lasts only up to realization. So long as the butter has not reached the boiling point, it simmers. Reaching the boiling point, it simmers no more. But when a kneaded flour cake is put into it, it again makes a noise, and when the cake is fried, it is again silent. Similarly, the man of realization comes down to a lower plane and talks in order to teach mankind. So long as the bee does not sit on the flower, it buzzes. When it has begun to sip the honey, it is quiet. Sometimes, however, after drinking its fill, it hums out of sheer joy. When a pitcher is dipped into a pond, it makes a gurgling noise. When full, it makes no more sound. Laughter. But if the water is poured into another pitcher, again there is sound. Then he explained how the man of realization sees the whole universe as composed of Brahman and nothing else, and added that all paths are true. In the course of the conversation, the master said that the Lord has endowed different beings with different degrees of power. Vidyasagar wanted to understand this better. Sri Ramakrishna, as the omnipresent entity, he is in all beings, down to the ant. But there is a difference in the manifestation of power. How else can one man defeat 10 while another flies from a single opponent? If it were not so, why do people respect you? Have you a pair of horns on your head? You have compassion, you have scholarship, which others have not. Therefore people respect you and come to see you. You admit this? Vidyasagar only smiled in reply. Sri Ramakrishna, there is nothing in mere scholarship. One reads books to ascertain the means of attaining God. What does the Gita mean? What you get by repeating the word 10 times. If you repeat it, it becomes Gita Githagi, etc. That is Tyagi, or a man of renunciation. The Gita teaches man to give up everything and to try to realize God. Monk or householder, everyone must give up from the mind all attachment. Why does a man of realization concern himself with devotion? The answer is that the ego cannot be rooted out. It disappears when he is in samadhi, but when he returns to normal consciousness, it reappears. You see a tiger in a dream. When you wake up, your heart still palpitates. The whole trouble is due to the ego. A bullock cries Hama, which sounds like I in Bengali. That's why the bullock suffers. He is yoked to the plow and is made to work in the sun and the rain. Then perhaps he is killed by a butcher, and out of his skin shoes are made, as well as drums, which are mercilessly beaten. Yet there is no end to the bullock's troubles, for out of his entrails strings are made for bowstrings and for carding cotton. At last, he no longer says Hama, but then the sound of string makes one plucked. Tun sounds like the Bengali word. That means you, or in other words, it is thou. When the I identification stops, and it is thou identification begins, it is free. O Lord, I am the servant, and thou art the master. I am the son, and thou art the mother. Rama said to Hanuman, "In what light do you see me?" Hanuman replied, "Rama, when I have the sense of ego left in me, I see that thou art the whole, and I am the part. Thou art the master, and I am the servant. But when I attain the highest knowledge, I see that thou art myself, and I am thou." God smiles twice. Once when the physician assures the dying patient's mother that he will cure her son. He smiles to think that the doctor says he will save him when he's going to kill him. The physician thinks that he is the doer. He has forgotten God. Again, God smiles when two brothers divide land by throwing a rope across. He knows the whole universe belongs to him, and yet these people are dividing the land between themselves. One cannot know him through reason. Call on him in the attitude of a servant, surrendering your all to him. To Vidyasagar, "Well, what is your attitude towards him?" Vidyasagar smiled and said, "I shall tell you someday, privately." Laughter. Sri Ramakrishna said, smiling, "One cannot know him through scholarship and reasoning." He then burst into a song full of enthusiasm. "Who knows how the mother is?" After the song, he said to Vidyasagar, "Did you notice? The whole universe lies in the womb of the mother, and even the 6 systems of philosophy cannot reach her. You must have faith and devotion." He eulogized faith and said, "They say Hanuman had so much faith in Rama's name that he could cross the ocean at a bound. But Rama himself had to build a bridge." Then he sang 2 fiery songs describing the efficacy of faith and devotion, in the course of which he fell into samadhi. The pundit and everyone witnessed this scene in silent wonder. Regaining his normal state, the master again said, "It is he who is being addressed as mother. The mother is our most intimate relation. One realizes God through love alone. Intense devotion, love, and faith are necessary." He sang another song. Then he said, "Rituals such as worship and sacrifice are not needed if one has love for him. One needs a fan so long as the wind does not blow. But one may put it aside when there is a southern breeze, for it is superfluous. What you're engaged in is good work. If done without an eye to results, it will conduce to devotion and love for God. By working in this way, one realizes God. But the more devotion and love you have for him, the more will your work decrease. The kind of work you're doing is for your own good. If you can do it without motive, your mind will be purified, you will attain love for God. And as soon as you have that, you will be able to realize him. Man never helps the world. It is the Lord who does it. The man who works unselfishly will achieve his own well-being. There is gold within you, about which you as yet know nothing. It is just under the surface. If you want to get a glimpse of it, work other than reflection on the self will automatically decrease. Go on. A woodcutter went to a forest in search of wood. A sadhu told him to go on. He did so and found sandalwood trees. Some days passed, and he thought to himself, "The sadhu told me to go on and not to stop with the sandalwood trees." He went farther and came across a silver mine. After some days, he went still farther and found a gold mine. Farther on, he found diamonds and jewels. He became fabulously rich. By doing unselfish work, one gains love for God, and gradually through his grace one attains him. One sees God and talks with him, just as I'm talking with you. The audience was spellbound. It was about 9 o'clock, and Sri Ramakrishna wanted to take leave. He addressed Vidyasagar with a smile. "Well, you evidently know all this that I have said, only you don't recollect it all at this moment." Laughter. In the treasure house of King Varuna are untold riches, diamonds and jewels, but he hardly knows them. Vidyasagar, smiling, "You may say so." Sri Ramakrishna, "Yes, many a rich man does not know his servants' names." Laughter. Or even the whereabouts of precious things in his possession. Everyone was charmed with the conversation. Sri Ramakrishna said to Vidyasagar, "Please come once to see Rani Rosmani's garden. It is a delightful place." Vidyasagar, certainly, sir. You have been so kind in coming here, and it is my duty to return the visit. Sri Ramakrishna, visiting me? Please don't mention it. Vidyasagar, why do you speak like that, sir? Sri Ramakrishna, smiling, we are but fishing craft. Laughter, we can sail in all waters, small streams as well as large rivers. But you are a ship, and maybe you will run aground if you venture out. Laughter, Vidyasagar only smiled. Sri Ramakrishna also was smiling. Then he said, but even a ship may go now. Vidyasagar, yes, it is the rainy season. Laughter, the master stood up. Vidyasagar rose to see him off. Sri Ramakrishna silently repeated the Lord's name on his fingers in an ecstatic mood, probably for the sake of the pundit, and stepped into his carriage. Vidyasagar offered to pay the carriage hire, which was thankfully declined. The party then left for Dakshineswar. We have already seen that Keshab Chandra Sen thought it a great privilege to spend a few hours in the saintly company of Sri Ramakrishna. He often arranged for occasional steamer trips. We shall describe one such trip. In the afternoon of October 27th, 1882, Keshab was on a Ganges steamer with some of his followers. The steamer halted in front of the Dakshineswar temple, and Keshab sent some of his disciples in a boat to fetch Sri Ramakrishna. The master, with Vijay, who chanced to visit him that day, stepped into the boat. But he soon lost all sense consciousness and was taken to the steamer with some difficulty. Keshab and others bowed to him. Being immersed in samadhi, he did not perceive it. He was conducted to a cabin and put in one of the chairs. Keshab and Vijay sat down also, while other devotees, mostly Brahmos, sat on the floor. All earnestly gazed at the master, who was gradually coming down from his samadhi. He was heard to talk to himself. Mother, why hast thou brought me here? Shall I be able to get them out of their enclosures? Someone among the audience referred to Pavhari Baba, the saint of Ghazipur, and said that he kept in his room a photograph of Sri Ramakrishna. The master, still unable to speak, simply smiled and pointing to his body said, only the outer covering. Shortly after he said, but there is one thing to be borne in mind. The heart of the devotee is the temple of the Lord. He is more or less manifest in all things, but specially so in the devotee's heart. A zemindar can be anywhere within his estate, but people say that he lives most in such and such a parlor. The heart of the devotee is the Lord's parlor. He whom Ananis call Brahman is addressed by the yogis as Atman and by the devotees as Bhagwan. The same Brahmin man is a priest when he worships and a cook when he works in the kitchen. He then explained that Brahman and Shakti were one and the same thing, viewed from different standpoints. As Jal, water, and Pani, a tank has several ghats. In one of these the Hindus take water and call it Jal. In another the Mohammedans drink water and they call it Pani, while a third is used by Englishmen who call the same thing water. All three are the same, the difference being only in name. Some call him Allah, some God, and others designate him as Brahman, Kali, Rama, Hari, Jesus, or Durga. He then sang some impressive songs to the mother. A devotee asked if one must renounce the world to attain God. Sri Ramakrishna replied that everybody need not give up the world. Let a householder fix his mind upon God. Let him do his work with one hand and touch the feet of the Lord with the other. After finishing his work, let him cling to his feet with both hands. The master continued, it all depends on the mind. Bondage and freedom are both in the mind. The mind will take on any hue you choose to put on it. It is like a cloth in a dyer's house. You may have it dyed red or blue or green or in any other color. One caresses his wife in one way and his child in another way, but it is with the same mind. I am a free soul. There is no bondage for me either in the world or in the forest. I am the child of God's Son of the King of Kings. Who is there to bind me in fetters? In case you are bitten by a snake, the venom loses its power if you resolutely repeat, there is no venom. Similarly, if you say with a will, I am not bound, I am free, free you shall be. Why talk of sin and hellfire all your life? Say once, I shall do no more wicked deeds, and have faith in his holy name. He sang feelingly a song depicting Radha's yearning for Krishna, at the end of which he said, "Whether you believe in Krishna and Radha or not, try to imitate their intense longing." After the conversation, all partook of light refreshments. The master noticed that Keshub and Vijay, owing to their differences of opinion, were not quite at ease. He sought to reconcile them and said to Keshub, "Well, here is Vijay. Your differences are like those of Shiva and Rama. Shiva was Rama's spiritual guide. They fought, but were soon reconciled and became fast friends again. But the fight between Shiva's ghosts and Rama's monkeys went on." Laughter. Such differences of opinion are quite common among friends. Mother and daughter often have their separate observances. The Lord himself wills such complications so that his play may last the longer. Laughter. Anuj was a Vishtadvaitin, while his teacher was an Advaitin. They came to differ, and each tried to oust the other. It is but natural. A friend is a friend for all that. The steamer touched at Calcutta. The master with some others went in a carriage to Surendra's house, and thence returned to Dakshineswar. It was on the 28th of November, 1883, that Sri Ramakrishna saw Keshub for the last time at the Lily Cottage, where he was lying seriously ill. At 5 p.m., he came with Latu, Rakal, and a few other devotees. He heard someone say that Keshub talked with the Divine Mother and laughed and wept. The passing reference at once threw him into a deep samadhi. When it became less intense, he began to speak, almost to himself. There is the body, and there is the soul. The body has had a birth and will pass away, but the soul is immortal. Take the case of a betel nut. When ripe, it is detached from the rind, but it is very hard to separate the two when the nut is green. One gets rid of the body idea when one sees him, realizes him. Then one feels the body as distinct from the soul. At this moment, Keshub entered the room. He was lean and thin and advanced with great difficulty. He saluted the master and sat on the floor with him. The master was still in a state of divine intoxication. He began to talk of the highest knowledge which obliterates all difference and described the identity of Brahman and Shakti. Then he said, "After realization, one sees him everywhere. He is most conspicuous in man, and among men in pure souls, who have not the least hankering for lust and wealth." Continuing, he said, "Material prosperity has no hold on God. What is he like? Not wealth, but divine emotion, love, devotion, discrimination, renunciation, and so forth. People look upon God from their own standpoint. To Keshub, smiling, there's a meaning to your illness. Many waves of divine emotion have passed through your body. One does not feel them at the time, but they react on the body later on. I have noticed the steamers passing along the Ganges, scarcely producing any perceptible change. But a short while after, the water dashes against the banks and makes a huge commotion. Sometimes it even washes away a portion of the bank. If an elephant enters a hut, it breaks everything to pieces. Similar is the effect of divine emotions on the system. You think everything is finished, but so long as there is the least trace of malady left, he won't let you go. If you get your admission into a hospital, you cannot come away at pleasure. So long as there is even a slight residuum of the disease, the house surgeon won't discharge you. You should have thought before getting the admission." Keshub highly appreciated the simile and laughed and laughed. Sri Ramakrishna continued, "Everything depends on his will. Thou dost thy work, mother, but people think they do it. The gardener exposes the roots of Basra rose plants in order that they may have the advantage of the dew and flourish. The same is perhaps the case with you." Laughter. "Next time, there will probably be a great upheaval. I feel most anxious whenever you fall ill. During your last illness, I used to weep towards the end of the night and say to Mother, 'Whom shall I talk to? Mother, if something particularly evil befalls Keshub?' When I came to Calcutta, I offered worship to Mother Kali and prayed to her that you might be cured." Keshub's mother saluted the master from a distance and desired his blessings for Keshub's recovery. Sri Ramakrishna replied, "Pray to the blissful mother, and she will remove all troubles." Then he said to Keshub gravely, "Don't be too much among the ladies. It will make your condition worse." You will be better if you hear only spiritual talk. A few weeks later, Keshav passed away. The event was a great shock to Sri Ramakrishna, who wept bitterly for his loss and could not leave his bed for 3 days. He afterwards said, "I felt as if one of my limbs were paralyzed." From this, the listener will get a glimpse of the great love he bore to Keshav. From Keshav's house, Sri Ramakrishna went to the house of another Brahmo devotee named Jayagopal Sain. There was much instructive talk. In answer to a query, the master said, "The only way out is to retire into solitude now and then and pray to God and try to realize Him." Question: shall we give up home? Sri Ramakrishna: not altogether. Whenever you get the leisure, spend a day or two in some solitary place, free from all contact with the world. Then you must not talk on secular matters with any worldly-minded man. Either you must retire to solitude or associate with holy men. Question: how should we know a holy man? Sri Ramakrishna: he is a holy man whose mind and soul have been given up to God. He must be a man who has renounced lust and wealth. A sadhu never looks at a woman with a worldly eye. He always keeps away from her, and if ever he approaches her, he regards her as his mother and worships her. A sadhu constantly thinks of God, talks of God and nothing else, and he serves all creatures, knowing the presence of God in them. These are some of the characteristics of a sadhu. Question: why is the world called Maya? Sri Ramakrishna: so long as one does not realize God, one has to eliminate finite things by a process of discrimination. Those who have realized Him know that He has become the All. God is Maya and Jiva and the universe. He includes the universe and all beings. If you separate from a bale its shell, pulp, and seeds, and somebody asks you to see how much the fruit weighed, will you leave the shell and seeds out and weigh the pulp alone? Of course you will include them. Then only you will be able to say the bale weighed so much. The shell represents the universe and the seeds the beings in it. At the time of discrimination, you call the jivas and the universe non-self unreal. Only the pulp then appears as real, and the shell and the seeds as unreal. But with discrimination, all the different elements are perceived as forming one whole. One sees that the same substance that has formed the pulp has also made the shell and the seeds. By the word bale, you mean the whole fruit. The master returned to Dakshineswar that night. I hope you like this chapter. We need volunteers and sponsors to create content with even better quality and with more variety. If you wish to join this initiative as a volunteer or sponsor, please click the links given in description below. To help us reach more viewers, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Biography Central. Thank you for your time. It means a lot. Namaste.